I'm now in Evergreen Cemetery, which is the cemetery that gives Cemetery Hill its name here in Gettysburg. And behind me is the grave that is marked Jennie Wade. The Jennie Wade grave is one of two, I believe, graves of women in the United States where a flag, an American flag, flies continuously 24 hours a day. Her name probably wasn't even Jennie. It was Mary Virginia Wade, and more often than not, she was known as Jin or Ginny Wade. But she was one of a circle of friends, young people who were of that generation who ended up having to fight the Civil War. Her boyfriend, maybe fiance, we really don't know for sure, was a young guy named Jack Skelly, who's also buried here in the cemetery. Jack Skelly, when the war broke out, joined the 87th Pennsylvania. Told his mom he wanted to fight for his country, like so many young boys from Gettysburg. And Company F of the 87th Pennsylvania was made up of young men from the town of Gettysburg. Another young man who grew up here in Gettysburg who fought in the Civil War was Wesley Culp. Now the Culp name is all over this cemetery. Culp's Hill is just off in the distance, not far at all away from here. And that was Wesley's family. It was part of his extended family. It was originally Kolb, K-O-L-B. And like many German names here in Pennsylvania, it eventually got anglicized to Culp. About 7 years before the Battle of Gettysburg, Wesley had gone to Virginia to work. And when the war broke out, he sided with his adopted state and joined a Virginia Confederate unit. As luck would have it, Wesley found himself on the battlefield in Winchester, Virginia in 1863, facing off against the 87th Pennsylvania. He and Jack Skelly were friends. They'd known each other. It was a small town. Most young men and women in their teens and early 20s probably did know each other. And as Wesley Culp walked the battlefield after the battle had been fought, he saw many faces of people that he knew. He eventually ran into Jack Skelly, who had been severely wounded. Jack Skelly asked Wesley to give him a message for his family. He also probably had a message for Jack Skelly's girlfriend, fiance, special friend, significant other. We don't know. We know that he had a lot of letters that he and Ginny had written to each other during the war. Wesley ended up here in Gettysburg 2 weeks later, never got to deliver that message. When the Battle of Gettysburg erupted on July 1st, Jennie Wade fled to her sister's home here on the south side of town. Union pickets were stationed nearby during the rest of the battle, and Jennie would do her part to provide water, make bread for those soldiers, and she was busy doing just that, kneading dough for bread, when as bullets were whizzing around and you could occasionally hear one hit the brick wall, one of those stray Confederate bullets passed through this door and right into Jennie Wade. She was killed almost instantly. At 20 years old, Jennie Wade was the only civilian casualty of the Battle of Gettysburg. History can sometimes be cruel in its irony. Though he likely never fought on the Culp property that gave Culp's Hill its name, Wesley Culp's 2nd Virginia did find itself in the fight in and around Culp's Hill. And it was there somewhere, we don't know for sure, probably on the Spangler property where I'm standing now. Culp's Hill is in the distance, and up that hill a little ways you get to the Culp property. Probably somewhere here, but maybe somewhere even further east than Culp's Hill. Wesley Culp went into battle with the 2nd Virginia, and sometime either on the 2nd or 3rd of July in the fighting, Wesley was killed. We don't know where he's buried. He may still lie here. We know for sure they never recovered all the graves. They recovered as many as they could, and most of the Confederate dead, about a decade after the Battle of Gettysburg, were exhumed and taken to places like Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond and cemeteries in Georgia and North Carolina and other places. So Wesley could be any of those places. But with his death, it was just one more sad chapter in a war that never seemed to end. Even though he had been wounded a few weeks before the Battle of Gettysburg, that circle of 3 friends, Jennie Wade, Wesley Culp, and Jack Skelly, all met their end in the first few weeks of July. Jack was the last of the 3 to die when he died of his wounds in Virginia on July 12th. His family brought him back here to Evergreen Cemetery to be buried. And he's buried near much of his family and probably 75 yards from Ginny Wade.